So, what do you get when you take the highest point in the Southern Hemisphere, stir in a group of scrappy survivors, mix in a little bit of political intrigue, and top it off with a helping heaping of danger? Well, you get the PS1 title known as Aconcagua. Yeah, Aconcagua is named after that very, very high peak in South America, and it will be the setting for this Japanese-only PS1 adventure game that I feel most people probably didn't get the chance to play. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and start a new game and get this adventure rolling.
Maruza is a small South American country located between Chile and Argentina. Maruza has been governed by a military dictatorship for a long time. Surveillance, arrests, tortures, assassinations, and genocide. The people are dispossessed of their rights and freedom and are kept on a chain of fear. The one person to shine a ray of hope onto this long period of darkness is Pachamama, the daughter of the first president of Maruza. The people started the democratic movement with her as a symbol of freedom. The movement expanded nationwide thanks to her warm personality. Tomorrow is the Maruzan Independence Day, and the wave of the democratization is just reaching a climax. I have taken this flight to cover Pachamama, the leader of the democratic movement.
Hey Kato, maybe we should get the interview with Pachamama before we land. What do you think?
Maybe you're right. It'll be hard to interview her once we land. Miss Pachamama, sorry to disturb your rest, but tomorrow is Independence Day, and there is considerable conjuncture that a revolution might break out. Your opinion, please?
A revolution? I don't think so. I just hope for a fair election.
How about...
Déjala sola.
Excuse me. I really would like to rest for a while.
Can I continue this interview at the airport, then? My name is Kato. I'm a journalist from Japan.
Mr. Kato, I see. I'll try to remember.
Hey, look outside. The Andes look spectacular.
Your love of mountains really amazes me. It's almost an addiction if you ask me.
Voy a descansar un momento.
Entonces, te traeré una manta.
no. What happened? Where am I? The plane crashed. Are there any survivors besides me?
And having miraculously survived that airplane crash, we now find ourselves in control of Kato, the Japanese reporter. Now, it's with him that we are going to start to learn the basics of gameplay, and at its heart, Aconcagua is a point-and-click adventure game. You can see our cursor, which is how we move around, and said cursor also tells us points of interest, changing into that exclamation there. Yeah, we find our first possible survivor here. Though pretty quickly we find that he is very much dead. And also Kato starts to postulate the possibility that maybe the snow cushioned his fall. Seems possible, but not really plausible. Still, it is sometimes good to investigate things multiple times. In this case, we are able to find out that the way this gentleman is dressed seems to say that he is probably a member of the crew, possibly a native of Maruza, the fictional South American nation we were flying through. But outside of that, we can't really get too much from investigating his body, and this little cliffside here does not leave many avenues of exploration. Honestly, the only thing of note is what appears to be a little climbable area here. Well, it would be climbable if Kato had any of his mountain climbing gear. And it would probably be good to make our way up there, because you never know, his friend Nakayama might be up there, or even Pachamama. The good thing is that you might have already noticed there was one other thing of interest down here on this little plateau. And it's this little backpack here. And in fact, it is actually Kato's backpack. Now, while he does say that everything is inside and intact, all that he manages to pull out of interest is a pair of climbing gloves. Yeah, as his friend Nakayama mentioned during that plane ride, Kato is a little bit of a climbing enthusiast, and that will definitely come in handy considering that we are probably going to be doing a whole lot of climbing here on Aconcagua. And while it's definitely not recommended to go climbing the heights of Aconcagua by yourself, Kato just doesn't really have much else of a choice right now. Still, as we do make our way up here, it does give me a good opportunity to say that while this is a PS1 game and it's not the best looking game around, it does really do well with what it has to offer. It's got amazing sound work, and it really gives you a good feel of space and just covering large amounts of distance. It's actually pretty impressive what they were able to do at this stage in the PS1's development. As we've made our way up a little bit further, it seems that good luck has shined upon us as we have managed to find what appears to be two breathing passengers. Do run into a bit of a problem though with this particular passenger, as he is speaking Spanish, and while Kato is apparently fluent in Japanese and English, Spanish is a little bit lost on him. So if we are going to want to help this gentleman out, well, we're going to need to find some way to communicate with him. Guess we're just gonna have to get back to him. I'm sure he'll be fine up here in the snow. But what about this guy over here? He looks a little familiar.
Hey, Nakayama! Wake up! Come on!
Kato, are you okay? Hey, listen. This crash was no accident. This has been planned from the beginning. You've got to reveal the truth.
Okay, don't talk anymore.
If you reveal the truth, you'll win the Pulitzer Prize. The credit is all yours this time, but make sure you thank me later, okay?
Hang on! Nakayama! Nakayama!
Poor Nakayama. We hardly knew ye. But yeah, while we, as the viewer, know at this point that this was definitely not an accident, it also seems that Nakayama had his own misgivings about what exactly happened, and hopefully Kato is going to be able to uncover the truth. Just for right now, it's still a matter of figuring out where we need to go next. As you can imagine, being so far up, the visibility is pretty low. Well, there is definitely something visible back up in this passage here. So we are blocked from going down this way for right now, and, well, as Kato mentions, it's probably better that we look around still in this area before we continue on. There's the strong possibility that, we might actually find some people alive over here. And in fact, speak of the devil, we find another familiar figure here in the snow. I think this is Pachamama.
It's Pachamama! Pachamama! Pachamama!
Nieve, ¿dónde estoy?
It looks like our plane crashed in the Andes.
What are you talking about? I know you.
Yes, I'm Kato. Did you get hurt?
No, I'm fine, I think. Are you alright?
Yes, I'm okay. I'm used to snow-covered mountains.
There should be other survivors. Let's find them.
Well, it is good that Pachamama is doing well. And even better than that, we now have a second party member to our group. Yeah, one of the key features of this game is that we are able to control multiple people, and each member of our party brings their own strength to the game. Also, as you do have multiple party members, they can communicate with each other, allowing us to get little additional tidbits or hints about what's going on. In this case, we are able to figure out, as we already saw from the cutscene, that Pachamama is also bilingual and she habla español. So with that, we are able to guide her over to that other injured passenger, hopefully getting some information out of him. Maybe he knows what happened. And Kato will just kind of hang back. Thankfully, the AI in this game is smart enough to where they don't just kind of wander off and ever find themselves in danger. Yeah, it seems that this Spanish passenger is in a pretty dire, straits. And it seems that he also might be a member of the Maruzan people. He wants Pachamama to survive, and that's why he gives us this very useful, mysterious item. is a key. Now, our inventory is pretty accessible to us anytime we do have an item, and sometimes those items do give us a hint about their usage. In this case, the key is not super descriptive, but it does seem that it will unlock a box. So, I guess we should keep an eye out for that. And considering we kind of ran out of options the other way, I guess we should probably explore up this little incline here. Now, there is quite a bit of airplane wreckage up here, and while I didn't mean to initially just rush up to it, the thing that we are looking for is this box here on the ground. Seems to have been some type of emergency panel from inside the plane. And while initially Pachamama is having some troubles opening it, we do just happen to have the tool necessary to open it up. Yeah, as this is the tutorial, nothing that we're going to be presented with right now is going to be too tremendously difficult, so things are going to seem pretty obvious for the most part. You can all just consider it, God favoring us in this very trying situation. But with our brand new fire extinguisher, we can head back to that roaring fire and also take in what I feel is a pretty interesting visual effect, and that's the fact that you can actually see Kato in the very, very distant foreground there amongst all the fog and the mist and the snow. Vaguely reminds me of some of the shadowing and fog effects they used in Silent Hill 1. Yeah, let's go ahead and deal with this fire. That, we should be able to continue exploring the mountain. And as always, it is a good idea to try and regroup, and whenever there are updates to the story, sometimes it's a good idea to talk to your party members. Though sometimes they just kind of recount obvious things. In this case, hey, I put out the fire. Sweet, let's keep on looking around for people to hopefully join our party. I mean, the wreck hasn't seemed that bad, at least on this side of the mountain, right? Or things are a lot worse off than we might have initially thought. Still, in this brand new area, we do manage to find another living passenger fairly quickly.
This is fucking great! Why me?
Hey, you there. Are you okay?
Are you from the rescue party?
No, I was one of the passengers.
I was this close to getting back to headquarters in the States.
What are you whining about? We're lucky to be alive. Help me look for other survivors.
Who could survive that crash?
Well, we survived, didn't we? There should be others somewhere. What's your name?
Steve. I'm an engineer from the United States.
Say hello to Steve, the Japanese interpretation of what a normal American is. Fat, foul-mouthed, and completely whiny and useless. Let's get to know Steve a little bit more. Yeah, pretty much right off the bat, Steve does not do well to ingratiate himself to Kato. Comes across as very cowardly and not really dealing with the situation very well, or the reality of the fact that you can't really sue someone if you're a dead popsicle. So, well, it is good that we have found another party member to join our little squad here. I do kind of agree to some measure with Steve here. Kato's, I guess, optimism probably isn't that realistic. Especially if you consider the ratio of living to dead passengers and people that we've managed to find so far. I'd say it's been about 50-50 in regards to living and dead. Now, while it would be nice to find a living crew member who could maybe help us find some useful debris amongst all the wreckage, that isn't to say we might not find something else hidden amongst the wreckage that we could find just as enlightening and useful. In this case, we find another living passenger. And in fact, it's another person that I think was kind of focused on during that opening cinematic, but for right now, she's pretty much stuck where she is. Her legs are pinned amongst all the debris and the other airline seats. If only we had some tools to maybe pry her out of this. Now, Steve did mention that he was an engineer. I guess he might have some tools somewhere, at least some ideas about how we can wrench her out of this. Indeed, it does seem that he might have tools somewhere hidden amongst all the wreckage and debris. Maybe he brought some with him from America. But he does notice that the other passenger here is an American as well, and well, that does seem like it might have some deeper story ramifications. For right now, it's mostly just so Steve can, I guess, complain more about being stuck on a mountain. Still, while we are over in this area, we can explore a little bit further down this way here. And our cursor changes to a D. Not sure initially what this D could stand for, but it does seem that Kato does notice that the snow is a little bit deeper here. And while we could have him forage forward to maybe see how deep the snow is, I get a feeling that the low center of gravity that Steve here is bound to have might be a little bit more useful in just seeing if it's safe to cross over here. Well, Steve, I believe in you. I know you can do it. No, Steve. It seems like it's a bit too deep for you. And in fact, this is our first real danger of the game and our first indication that, indeed, each of our party members does have a life bar. And we are going to want to be pretty careful up here on Aconcagua, because if any of our squad members dies, that is game over for all of us. So, instead of using our rotund friend Steve, we are going to want to forage forward with our much taller squad mate of Kato here.
The snow is very deep here. I'll have to make a path.
With Kato's superior long Japanese legs, he has managed to make a little bit of a pathway so that the other party members can make their way over here if need be the case. But yeah, a lot of this game is going to end up being trial and error, especially when it comes to moving around. Sometimes getting the best camera angle can be a little bit difficult, and it's especially good to, look around pretty thoroughly, because what might initially seem like just wreckage could actually be holding a very useful item. Sadly for right now, this rope is not going to be accessible to us. We need some way to cut it down. But at least we do know that it's here, in case we do need it in the future. But yeah, a lot of this game is, going to be trial and error, figuring out which one of our party members is best suited for each job, or each puzzle, or each obstacle. For the most part, there's not really going to be multiple ways to approach situations. It's more going to be just figuring out the proper way to overcome what's put in front of us. Now, while this section of the valley over here is pretty much a dead end, with the emphasis on the dead, in the opposing section, we do find a couple of things of interest. First and foremost on the ground here, we do find a piece of luggage from one of the passengers on the plane. One caveat being that we cannot open it because it's locked with a combination. In addition to that, draped over the mountainside here is what I can only assume was maybe flying off the back of the plane, which is a very large-scale flag of, the old Republic of Maruza. Now, I think before the totalitarian tyranny of the government or the military went into power in Maruza, I think this was their flag when they were formerly peaceful and, I'm going to say agricultural nation. I think that's what Pachamama was trying to get back to. In fact, if you do get her over here, she will talk a little bit about the bloody coup and uprising that had went on in her country that they did kind of cover in the opening cinematic. It's definitely interesting what you can sometimes get from having, multiple people interact with different objects in the game. And I will definitely try to do my best to cover any of those more interesting tidbits. For right now, though, we do want to get that female passenger out of the plane debris, and it does seem that the luggage we found is indeed Steve's. The slightly annoying thing is that initially Steve is not very inclined to go get it himself, but begrudgingly he is willing to do so. I suppose we could have just brought the suitcase over here with us, but it's probably heavy and Steve needs to learn. He needs to be proactive. Also, yes, if you do not have Kato go look at the suitcase first, Steve will not go over here of his own volition. Instead, he'll just look down at the snow passageway that Kato made and realize that he was looking pretty dumb by jumping in the snow. Still, since we did manage to tell Steve about his suitcase, we have managed to find a brand new item locked away inside. And it is a set of his work tools. And as you can imagine, these will be coming in very useful in the future.
Thank you. I'm Julia, a journalist from the States. I got arrested in Bosnia last year, and now my plane crashes this time. I must be out of luck.
I'm Steve. I'm also from the States. I work for a multinational corporation as an engineer at a local office.
I'm Kato from Japan. I'm also a journalist.
I thought that you were a mountaineer.
I used to be, but now I'm in the same line of business as you are.
I'm Pachamama.
The leader of the democratic movement that will win back freedom from the military regime of Maruza. Everyone calls you the Statue of Liberty of Maruza. You're the only hope for the people under the rule of the military.
So that's why I thought I'd seen you before.
I do not think that the crash was an accident.
Why do you think so?
I've been targeted for assassination many times in the past. This crash might...
We ought to consider our next moves rather than worry about the cause of the crash. When airplanes crash in mountain regions, the search for survivors usually takes longer than you would expect.
What? Are you saying the rescue party is not coming right away?
There's no guarantee that they would find us immediately.
What would happen to us if they didn't find us?
That's why we have to find a transmitter. If we can make contact, they will find our location more quickly.
He's right. Let's find a transmitter.
So Kato keeps us steady on our course, and we do have a brand new party member here in Julia. And as opposed to some of the other characters that we've run into and has joined us, she actually does come defaulted with at least 2 new items. A lighter and, rather strangely, a combat knife. I suppose it's a bit strange that a journalist would be carrying around specifically a combat knife, but it does remind me that that is going to be useful to us pretty much immediately, so it's good for us. Yeah, let's go ahead and head back over to that rope, see if we can't cut that down, and yeah, there was that mention from Pachamama that she has had a couple of assassination attempts done against her, and at least for right now, it does seem plausible that that's what the explosion on board was due to, though Kato and everybody else still is under the assumption that this very well could have just been, just a mechanical failure. A few quick expert cuts from Julia's combat knife. We now have in our possession a fairly sturdy length of rope. And while a rope can have many different uses, In the case of our mountain expedition, I think it'd probably be most useful right now in the course of climbing. So that I don't think Julia's going to get the most use out of it. Instead, it brings up another gameplay avenue for us, and that's the fact that we can trade items between our different team members. In some cases, if an item is especially useful to another team member, then we are more than able to give the item to them so that they can make proper usage out of it. And like that old saying go, teamwork makes that dream work. Now, as we have pretty much covered this general area down here, I could probably look on the other end of this little plateau here. See if there's anything we might have missed on the opposing end. Yeah, there's still plenty of fiery wreckage. It seems we did get to the end, and we do get a view of what seems to be the front of the plane. That means that the cockpit is down there, and that very well means that the communication system is probably in there as well. It's just kind of a question of how we are going to make our way all the way down there, and there is this very obvious looking rock here. And Kato has the very bright idea that, well, if we manage to tie a rope around this rock, we can make something that can easily allow our entire party to make our way down the cliffside. But what lies in store for us down on the cliffside? Will we find the communication device still in working order? And what of the possible assassination attempt on Pachamama? Well, you're going to have to find out what lies in store for our party next time around as we continue in Aconcagua.